So really what I'm encouraging you to do is to reset your goals. Identify some financial goals that may be important to you. Maybe you want to retire early. Maybe you want to shift your career into something else so that you've got more flexibility, less stress. And include things like reducing your debt, saving for retirement, building up your emergency fund. You want to make sure your budget reflects these goals and allocate those funds accordingly. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Prairie Fire Podcast. We're happy to have you here today. So there's not anything that I can bring up that causes more groaning and agony than it comes to the word budgeting. But today I want to talk about budgeting for fun. So stay tuned because we're going to break open some things that maybe you haven't thought about before when we talk about budgeting. But yes, I have to be honest. There isn't much that I bring up that causes more groaning and agony than the word budgeting. And so whenever I say, how much money do you think you're going to need, or how much do you think you're spending each month, or where do you think it's all going? These are the sounds that I get, just sadness and agony. So budgeting, it isn't any fun. Let's not pretend that it is. But what if we turned it on its head and we use it as a tool for abundance and maybe some fun things? So as you enter a new phase of life post-children, it can be a great time to reassess your budget. Now that you have more time to dedicate to yourselves and have fewer financial responsibilities, maybe it's a chance you can explore some new hobbies, some new interests, things like that. So after the last number of years, we've been doing good work. We've been raising our kids, getting them ready to become responsible adults, to get out of the house and do their own thing, to move on with their lives. And so when that happens, things change, and where our money goes also changes. And so while we've been spending a lot of time on their activities and feeding them and doing all that kind of stuff, we haven't been realizing that a lot of that income is now going to be flowing back into our pocket rather than just theirs. So I had boys in my home. And if any of you out there have had boys at your house, you understand the amount of food that they can consume is something else. We had a little, what I called a carbohydrate drawer in our house, and it was full of chips and nuts and carbohydrates, stuff that generally I would be trying to avoid eating, that they pounded in massive quantities. Then, of course, there's the ice cream. And then when you take them out to eat. So here in Des Moines, we have a place that serves what's called the Adam Emenecker. He was a basketball player at Drake. And it's like 4 hamburgers and cheese and nachos, this big, massive plate of food. And it was on one of these food contests where a guy sees if he can eat it or not. And they still have it up at this place called Jethro's, where if you go eat it in a certain amount of time, you win a prize or a free meal or whatever. Well, when the boys were teenagers, I was watching how they were eating, and I thought it would be interesting to see if they could knock this thing out. And so we ordered it, and between the 3 of us, we couldn't finish it. And so even though they were eating massive amounts, they were nowhere near when they got to their later teenage years, when they could really sock it in. So anyway, I bring up the food thing because if you think about, maybe they're spending, $200 a month on food for your kids while they're home. That's going to be money that's flowing back into your budget. So hold a pin in that because I want to talk about that number here again in a second. So when we set up budgets, we're talking about discretionary expenses and fixed expenses. We start, of course, with our income. How much are we bringing in every month? And so traditionally, when we've done our budget, we break down those fixed expenses first. So we're taking a look at what our mortgage payment is, what our rent payment may be, how much our car payments are, those monthly expenses that we can count on. And those are fixed every month, and we know what they're going to look like. It's the discretionary ones that can cause us some heartburn because we don't always know what they're going to be. They fluctuate. There's surprises. The cars break down. Kids get sick, whatever the case may be. You planned a big trip and it ended up costing a lot more than you thought. All that kind of stuff is part of that. And so when we're looking at our budgets, we want to break them into these 2 components. So it's the discretionary area when we're talking about budgeting for fun that I think we should explore. So this is a chance to reassess your expenses. So we can revisit those monthly expenses to determine which areas may require some adjustment. So if we consider things like our mortgage, our utilities, our insurance, our groceries, entertainment, things like dining out, recreational activities, gas, insurance, all of those kind of things, they're going to look different when the kids are gone. So let's take an example of like going to the movies. All right. So if you have a family of 6, like we did, and I would take everybody to the movies, like with an occasional stray boyfriend or girlfriend that wanted to come along, we're over $100 really quick on that little adventure. And so now if it's just you and your spouse going, you can get in for way below that. And you can choose the movies that you really want to go to, setting something up where you have to go away. And now, of course, there's all these streaming options where you don't even have to go to the theater. And so that's just one example. If the kids get to the point where they're paying for their own gas in their car, or if they're chipping in for their car insurance, or if you're lucky enough where you can take them off your insurance, again, you're adding a lot more cash flow back in. We've talked about food, utilities. My kids, man, I could not get them to turn off the lights. So there was lights left on in our house all the time. And so those expenses went away when they left as well. And then, of course, after they graduate from college, the education expenses that are flowing out, that's money back into your budget, maybe back into your budget for fun. So when I'm talking about having fun with your budget, what am I talking about? So I've broken it into a couple different areas here to be thinking about as you get into the empty nest years, even if you're not there yet. If your kids are still at home, but you're thinking about what it's going to look like when they do go, this is a great time to start planning some of this and start understanding that you are going to potentially have some more discretionary income and what you can do now about that. So let's think about travel first. This is a big empty nest topic. I've been wanting to travel. There's places I've been wanting to go. And so now could be the time for that dream vacation that you've always wanted. It could be a road trip across the country or an international adventure, but traveling can offer enriching experiences and long memories. So let's go back to that $200 a month that we were talking about. And so if you're spending $200 a month on food that isn't basically going out the door anymore like it was, so all of a sudden now that's $2,400 a month that you've got in extra disposable income. Well, $2,400 is a heck of a deposit on some sort of trip, or it could translate into a long weekend or two that you take together. But all of a sudden, those travel dreams that seem so unattainable when the kids were home, just by doing a little bit of a tweak in the budget and understanding that we're not finding new money here. This is just reallocating resources that you've already got. So perhaps that could be money that is applied to a trip or something like that you've been wanting to do for a long time. So Lisa and I talked for a long time about going to Ireland. Over 10 years, we talked about it. And so once the kids had left and our income looked a little bit more clear, especially when they got off the insurance and things like that, we were able to sock some money away for a few years. And then this year, we're going to be able to go to Ireland. So excited about that and getting a trip that we've dreamed about for years. But sometimes they don't happen until the kids leave. But I am just trying to encourage that, hey, there may be some extra stuff there that you can use. All right. The other area that you could be thinking about is classes and workshops. So maybe you've always wanted to learn a new language or pick up some sort of artistic skill. There's a ton of local classes and workshops, and this aids not only in personal development, but also offers a great way to meet some new people. And so I don't know what your interest may be. It could be in the artistic skills or something like that, but joining up to learn something new, this is a great time to do that because not only is your budget opening up a little bit, so is your time. You're not having to do curfew duty on Fridays anymore because they're going to be off away at school. And so this is a chance to maybe explore those skills a little bit as well. The third area that I would have you think about is in home improvement. And so when you have an empty nest, you might consider investing in home improvement projects. It could be a garden makeover or a new kitchen or converting a bedroom into something more useful, like a hobby room, those kind of things. But home improvements can enhance your living space and maybe add value to your house. And so one of the things I've seen a lot of folks do is renovating a kid's bedroom. So great spot for a gym, great spot for a man cave or a mom cave, something that can be used for an arts and crafts room, still keeping like a bed in there or a pull out, changing the whole dynamic to where it's a visiting room instead of a living room. And so that's space now that you can use for your pursuits and the things that you want to do. And so a lot of folks wrestle with what to do with the house when the kids leave. Should I sell it? Should I downsize? Those kind of things. But be thinking about what can I do with the space that I already have, maybe that now the kids won't need it as much, I can change that over. And so we hear a lot of stories from parents of kids coming home going, what happened to my room? What did you do? And it's like, hey man, you're out. I got room for you. I want you to come home. This is your home. You're welcome to stay. But the space is going to start looking differently because now this is our forever home, perhaps, that kind of thing. So the other area then that we could also be considering is health and wellness. And so if you've never invested in a gym membership or yoga classes or even a personal trainer, this can be a great time to do that. So prioritizing your health will enhance, of course, your quality of life, but also can provide an outlet for stress and relief and that kind of thing. So I don't know if you've ever, been to these gyms and those kind of things, but I just know from being part of the YMCA for so long that they are adding more and more classes and doing lots more programming around empty nests, retirement, those kind of things and those kind of folks that lower impact, but still the ability to get a great workout. So like at the YMCA, they had 20 group classes going before COVID. Now there's over 40. So the demand for that has really increased and has made it to where a lot of folks are getting re-engaged with their health and wellness. So exercise is just one part of that. There are so many classes that I see everywhere about nutrition, tons of stuff online, YouTube, areas like that you can pursue. But this is a great time if you've not had a chance or the time to work on yourself, work on your own wellness and fitness, to do that. And so developing these new habits, these new kind of things when the kids are gone, once again, some of the money may be freed up to where you can do that when you haven't been able to here in the past. So really what I'm encouraging you to do is to reset your goals. Identify some financial goals that may be important to you. Maybe you want to retire early. Maybe you want to shift your career into something else so that you've got more flexibility, less stress. And include things like reducing your debt, saving for retirement, building up your emergency fund. You want to make sure your budget reflects these goals and allocate those funds accordingly. A budgeting app can be a great way to do this. A lot of the banks now have a great way to organize your spending, keep track of where the money's going. I know when we talk about budgeting, we're talking about pain, and I'm sorry about that. I know it can be a tough road to hoe, but I'm telling you, if you can flip it on its ear a little bit here and think about budgeting in terms of fun and budgeting for fun. And so this may be the first time you've ever been able to do that, but here we are as we begin to live our empty nest life for the second half of our life, and less of it spent on kid times. We'll have a chance to open up the books a little bit and maybe have a little bit of fun. So if you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Prairie Fire, we help with budgeting and how we help with retirement planning and getting through the empty nest to have a freedom-filled life, shoot me a note at info@PFW Planning. When I was going through this whole issue of becoming an empty nester and the kids leaving and developing a budget, I documented a lot of that, and I've recorded that in my book called Empty Nest Full Pockets. And so if you'll shoot us a note at this email address, info@PFW Planning, we will send you a free copy. And we can do that both electronically or we can send you a physical copy. So shoot me a note. We would love to do that. I want to thank you so much for being here today. Hope you enjoyed our podcast, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody real soon. Thanks.